The Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, introduced the Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework in May 2021, mandating comprehensive ESG disclosures for India's top 1,000 listed entities. This regulatory evolution represents a paradigm shift from voluntary business responsibility reporting (BR) to mandatory, standardized sustainability disclosure aligned with international best practices. While the BRSR framework provides Indian companies with a structured mechanism to demonstrate their SDG contributions through standardized, verifiable disclosures. This alignment enhances corporate credibility, facilitates impact measurement, and positions organizations as responsible actors in India's sustainable development journey. Hello and welcome again to this crucial topic of the series. I Harshit Simha, your host, will today discuss on a comprehensive methodological guide to aligning India's business responsibility and sustainability reporting framework with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The intersection of BRSR and SDGs creates a powerful framework for Indian corporates to demonstrate their contribution to national and global sustainability priorities. This mapping matrix serves as a technical guide for sustainability professionals, ESG analysts, corporate reporters, and policymakers seeking to understand the intricate relationships between BRSR disclosure requirements and SDG achievement. By systematically aligning BRSR's 9 principles with the 17 SDGs, organizations can strategically position their sustainability initiatives, identify reporting gaps, and articulate their impact narrative with precision and credibility. This document provides the methodological foundation for such alignment. Let us explore the topic at its full length, explaining the interrelation between 9 principles of business responsibility and sustainability reporting framework with 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Slide 2. Overview of BRSR. The BRSR framework comprises 3 interconnected sections that collectively provide a comprehensive view of an organization's sustainability performance. Section A establishes the foundational context, including corporate identity, business model, and stakeholder engagement mechanisms. Section B delves into the governance structures, policies, and management systems that guide sustainability initiatives across the organization. Section C presents the actual performance data, metrics, and outcomes that demonstrate tangible progress and impact. This 3-tier structure enables comparative analysis, trend identification, and benchmarking whilst maintaining flexibility for sector-specific adaptations. The framework's design facilitates both regulatory compliance and strategic sustainability management, positioning BRSR as a transformative tool for corporate accountability in India's rapidly evolving ESG landscape. On the other hand, 9 principles form the conceptual backbone of BRSR, spanning environmental stewardship, social responsibility, and governance excellence. Each principle encompasses specific disclosure requirements categorized as essential, mandatory for all entities, and leadership, voluntary, demonstrating best practices. Together, they create a holistic framework that captures the multidimensional nature of corporate sustainability and provides clear pathways for organizations to articulate their ESG performance in alignment with regulatory expectations and stakeholder demands. Principle-wise performance disclosures forms the analytical core of BRSR and is structured around 9 principles, mapped below to ESG themes and SDGs. Environment stewardship covers BRSR Principle 2 and 6 with the SDG classification as Principle 2, Sustainable Products and Services, Environment, SDGs 9, 12. Principle 6, Environment, SDGs 6, 7, 12, 13, 14, 15. Further, the social equity covers BRSR Principle 3, 5, 8 and 9 with the SDG classification as Principle 3, Employee Well-being, Social, SDGs 3, 5, 8. Principle 5, Human Rights, Social, SDGs 5, 8, 10, 16. Principle 8, Inclusive Growth and Development, Social, SDGs 1, 2, 4, 8, 11. Principle 9, Customer Value and Responsibility, Social, Governance, SDGs 9, 12, 16. And finally the Governance Excellence covers BRSR Principle 1, 4 and 7 with the SDG classification as Principle 1, Ethics, Transparency and Accountability, Governance, SDGs 16, 17. Principle 4, Stakeholder Engagement, Governance, Social, SDGs 10, 11, 17. Principle 7, Policy Advocacy, Governance, SDGs 16, 17. In conclusion, the BRSR framework integrates ESG performance with the full spectrum of the 17 UN SDGs, enabling companies to move from compliance-driven disclosures towards strategic, outcome-oriented sustainability reporting. Slide 3. Methodology, Mapping SDGs to BRSR Framework. This methodology ensures rigorous, transparent mapping that maintains fidelity to both frameworks whilst providing practical guidance for corporate reporters. The classification system acknowledges varying degrees of contribution, from explicit quantitative impacts to broader systemic enablers. This nuanced approach reflects the complex, interconnected nature of sustainability challenges and avoids oversimplification of SDG, BRSR relationships whilst providing clear guidance for disclosure strategy and impact communication. A robust methodology for mapping the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, to India's business responsibility and sustainability reporting, BRSR, framework ensures coherence, credibility, and decision-useful sustainability disclosures. The approach follows 5 sequential steps. Step 1. Principal identification begins with analyzing the organization's business model, sectoral context, and value chain to identify relevant BRSR principles. These principles are then linked to priority SDGs using materiality assessment and stakeholder inputs, ensuring alignment with both regulatory expectations and development priorities. Step 2. Disclosure mapping translates SDG targets into specific BRSR disclosures, including Section A and Section B requirements and principle-wise indicators. This step establishes traceability between SDG ambitions and mandated qualitative and quantitative disclosures, enabling structured reporting. Step 3. Alignment classification assesses the nature and strength of linkage between business activities and SDGs. Alignments are categorized as direct, indirect, or enabling, based on contribution pathways and control. This classification framework prevents overclaiming and strengthens reporting integrity. Step 4. Rationale development articulates the strategic and operational logic underpinning each SDG BRSR linkage. Using double materiality and theory of change approaches, organizations explain why a specific SDG is material, how activities contribute to outcomes, and how associated risks and opportunities are managed. Step 5. KPI identification with alignment framework defines measurable indicators aligned with BRSR metrics and SDG targets. KPIs are mapped across outputs and outcomes, and where feasible, impacts, supporting performance tracking, comparability, and continuous improvement. Slide 4. SDG 1. No Poverty, BRSR Alignment Analysis. SDG 1 aims to end poverty in all its forms by strengthening income security, access to basic services, and social protection. Within India's business responsibility and sustainability reporting, BRSR framework, alignment with SDG 1 is achieved primarily through inclusive growth strategies, employee welfare, stakeholder engagement, and targeted corporate social responsibility (CSR) interventions. Rather than treating poverty alleviation as philanthropy alone, BRSR embeds it within core business practices and governance systems as shown in the illustrative matrix. The strongest direct alignment is observed under Principle 8, Inclusive Growth and Equitable Development, where companies disclose CSR expenditure and programs focused on livelihood creation, skill development, and community upliftment. These disclosures demonstrate measurable contributions to poverty reduction targets. Indirect alignment is reflected through Principle 4, stakeholder interests, which emphasizes structured community engagement, needs assessments, and impact evaluation. This ensures that poverty-related interventions are responsive to local realities and vulnerable groups. Principle 3. Employee well-being plays an enabling role by addressing in-work poverty through fair wages, benefits, and social security coverage, thereby strengthening economic resilience for employees and contract workers. Section A, General Disclosures, further reinforces this alignment by requiring transparency on CSR policy focus areas and spending on Schedule 7 activities linked to poverty eradication. From this matrix, the indicative KPIs for SDG 1, No Poverty, enable organizations to measure tangible contributions toward poverty alleviation and inclusive growth. Key indicators include the number of beneficiaries reached through poverty reduction programs, CSR expenditure allocated to livelihood generation, and jobs created in economically vulnerable communities. Workforce-related KPIs, such as the percentage of employees earning a living wage or above, reflect efforts to address in-work poverty. Investments in skill development and vocational training demonstrate long-term income security, while support for micro-enterprises and procurement from disadvantaged communities highlights value chain inclusion. Collectively, these KPIs help track outcomes, ensure accountability, and align BRSR disclosures with SDG 1 targets. Further, the cross-cutting disclosures points out that SDG 1 is reinforced through Section A, General Disclosures, on workforce composition and value chain reach, and Section B, Management and Process Disclosures, covering policies, governance, and risk management related to social impacts. Together, these disclosures enable investors and regulators to assess how business practices influence poverty outcomes beyond philanthropy. Slide 5. SDG 2, Zero Hunger, BRSR Alignment Analysis. SDG 2 focuses on ending hunger, ensuring food security, improving nutrition, and promoting sustainable agriculture. Within India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework, alignment with SDG 2 is most prominent across inclusive growth, responsible products, environmental stewardship, and stakeholder engagement, particularly for agri-businesses, food processors, retailers, and financial institutions supporting food systems. The matrix-based alignment highlights Principle 8, Inclusive Growth and Equitable Development as a direct contributor. Disclosures under Section C, P8Q1Q5, capture CSR programs on nutrition, farmer livelihoods, and rural development that directly address hunger and malnutrition. Principle 2, Product Lifecycle also shows direct alignment, especially for food sector entities, through disclosures on sustainable sourcing, food safety, nutritional value, and reduction of food loss and waste across the value chain, Section C, P2Q1Q6. Principle 6, Environment provides indirect alignment, Section C, P6Q1Q15, by addressing water stewardship, soil health, biodiversity conservation, and climate resilience, critical enablers of long-term agricultural productivity and stable food systems. Principle 4, Stakeholder engagement plays an enabling role, Section C, P4Q4Q6, ensuring engagement with farmers, suppliers, and communities so that food security initiatives respond to systemic and local challenges. Together, the matrix demonstrates that SDG 2 outcomes are delivered through a combination of direct interventions, environmental enablers, and inclusive governance. BRSR thus positions zero hunger as a cross-cutting development outcome embedded in responsible production, resilient ecosystems, and collaborative value chains. Referring the sector-specific considerations for the agriculture and food sector, SDG 2 materiality is high due to direct dependencies on land, water, climate, and smallholder livelihoods. Key considerations include sustainable agricultural practices, supply chain traceability, reduction of food loss and waste, and fair pricing for farmers. Companies are increasingly disclosing initiatives on climate-resilient crops, efficient irrigation, and farmer capacity building under BRSR Principle 6. In the food processing and retail sector, access and affordability are central. Product reformulation to improve nutrition, responsible marketing, and reduction of post-harvest losses align strongly with Principle 2 in Principle 9, customer value. For financial institutions, indirect alignment occurs through agri-finance, crop insurance, and support for smallholder farmers, enabling food security while managing climate and credit risks. Slide 6. SDG 3, Good Health and Well-being, BRSR alignment. SDG 3 seeks to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Within India's business responsibility and sustainability reporting, BRSR framework, alignment with SDG 3 is achieved through a combination of direct interventions, environmental enablers, and responsible product practices, as reflected in the matrix-based approach. Principle 3. Employee well-being shows direct alignment, with disclosures under Section C, P3Q15Q20 covering occupational health and safety systems, wellness programs, mental health support, and health insurance coverage. These measures directly reduce workplace injuries and illness, contributing to healthier and more productive workforces. Principle 8. Community health and inclusive development also demonstrates direct alignment, Section C, P8Q1Q5. CSR investments in healthcare infrastructure, preventive health initiatives, sanitation, and access to essential services improve public health outcomes, particularly in underserved communities. Principle 6. Environment provides indirect alignment, Section C, P6Q8Q12, by addressing pollution control, waste management, water stewardship, and emissions reduction. These environmental actions lower exposure to health risks and support long-term population well-being. Principle 2. Product safety and life cycle responsibility plays an enabling role, Section C, P2Q4Q6. Product safety standards, quality controls, and consumer health protection mechanisms help prevent health hazards arising from unsafe products and services. Further, occupational health and safety (OHS) KPIs are critical for assessing how effectively organizations protect employees and contract workers from workplace risks. Key indicators such as lost time injury frequency rate (LTIFR), total recordable injury frequency rate (TRIFR), fatalities, and near-miss reporting rates provide insights into safety performance and preventive culture. Additional metrics, including the percentage of workforce covered by health insurance, health and safety training hours per employee, ISO 45001 certification coverage, and investments in occupational health infrastructure, reflect the maturity of safety management systems and commitment to employee well-being. On the other hand, community health impact metrics extend SDG 3 contributions beyond the workplace. These include the number of beneficiaries reached through health programs, healthcare facilities established or upgraded, medical camps conducted, and investments in sanitation and hygiene infrastructure. Metrics related to maternal and child health, vaccination coverage, and participation in mental health and wellness initiatives capture broader public health outcomes. Together, OHS KPIs and community health metrics provide a comprehensive view of organizational contributions to health and well-being across internal operations and external communities. Slide 7. SDG 4, Quality Education, BRSR Framework Integration. SDG 4 aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities. Within India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework, SDG 4 is integrated through a combination of direct investments in education, workforce capability building, and community partnerships, as reflected in the matrix-based alignment. Principle 3. Employee development demonstrates direct alignment through disclosures under Section C, P3Q21Q25. These cover training hours, skill enhancement, leadership development, and continuous learning initiatives that strengthen workforce productivity and employability, directly supporting lifelong learning objectives. Principle 8. Education initiatives and inclusive development also shows direct alignment, Section C, P8Q1Q5. CSR expenditure on education infrastructure, scholarships, vocational training, digital literacy, and school support programs expands access to quality education, particularly for disadvantaged communities. Principle 4. Community engagement provides indirect alignment, Section C, P4Q1Q3, by fostering partnerships with educational institutions, NGOs, and local communities. These collaborations help design context-specific learning interventions and improve educational outcomes beyond corporate boundaries. Section A. Human Resources Disclosures plays an enabling role, Section AQ8Q10, reflecting organizational commitment to learning culture, talent development, and human capital management systems. Such foundational practices create systemic conditions for sustained educational impact. Owing to the requirement, the following are the way to impart education. Formal education support focuses on strengthening foundational learning systems through school infrastructure development, scholarships, educational materials, teacher training, and digital classrooms. These interventions improve access, retention, and learning outcomes, particularly for underserved communities. Vocational training bridges education and employability by delivering industry-aligned skill development, apprenticeships, technical certifications, and job readiness programs. Such training responds to labor market needs, enhances productivity, and supports inclusive economic growth. Digital literacy equips learners with essential technology skills through computer education centers, digital skills training, online learning platforms, and access to devices and connectivity. Digital literacy expands learning opportunities, reduces the digital divide, and enables participation in an increasingly digital economy. Employee development emphasizes continuous learning within organizations through leadership development, technical upskilling, cross-functional training, and professional certifications. These initiatives enhance workforce adaptability, career progression, and long-term organizational resilience. Together, these education pathways create a comprehensive ecosystem that supports quality education, lifelong learning, and sustainable development. Slide 8. SDG 5, Gender Equality, Comprehensive BRSR Mapping. SDG 5 seeks to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Within India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework, SDG 5 alignment is embedded across workforce practices, human rights safeguards, and inclusive development initiatives, as reflected in the matrix-based mapping. Principle 3. Gender parity and employee well-being demonstrates direct alignment through disclosures under Section C, P3Q1Q9. These cover gender diversity metrics, equal remuneration, maternity benefits, return-to-work programs, and anti-discrimination policies, directly advancing workplace gender equality. Principle 5. Human rights also shows direct alignment, Section C, P5Q1Q7. Disclosures on prevention of sexual harassment, elimination of gender-based violence, and access to grievance redressal mechanisms strengthen protection of women's rights and dignity at work and across value chains. Principle 8. Women's empowerment and inclusive growth reflects direct alignment, Section C, P8Q1Q5, through CSR programs targeting women's economic empowerment, entrepreneurship support, skill development, and community-level gender equality initiatives. These interventions extend SDG 5 outcomes beyond the organization into society. Section B. POSH compliance plays an enabling role. Section B Q2, Q5. Ensuring robust governance mechanisms under the Prevention of Sexual Harassment (POSH) Act. Effective POSH systems create safe, respectful, and inclusive workplaces, which are foundational to sustained gender equality. Further, the current status of gender equality reflects measurable progress across workforce participation, pay equity, and leadership representation, while also highlighting areas requiring continued focus. With 43% women in the workforce, organizations demonstrate a strong commitment to inclusive hiring and gender-balanced participation across operational levels. This level of representation indicates meaningful progress toward creating diverse and resilient workplaces. Equal pay compliance at 100% signals a firm commitment to eliminating gender pay gaps and ensuring remuneration parity for comparable roles. Such compliance strengthens trust, enhances employee morale, and aligns organizations with fair labor practices and human rights principles. Representation of women in leadership at 30% reflects a growing, though still aspirational, presence of women in senior management and board positions. While this indicates progress in breaking structural barriers, it also underscores the need for targeted leadership development, succession planning, and inclusive governance practices. Workplace gender equality KPIs provide a structured lens to monitor progress. These include the percentage of women employees, gender pay ratios, representation in senior leadership, return to work rates after maternity leave, POSH complaints resolution, participation of women in STEM roles, parental leave utilization, and gender disaggregated training data. Collectively, these indicators assess both equity and inclusion across the employee life cycle. At the community level, gender impact is reflected through support for women entrepreneurs, skill development beneficiaries, self-help groups, health and hygiene initiatives, education scholarships, and gender-responsive infrastructure. Together, workplace and community KPIs demonstrate a holistic approach to advancing gender equality and women's empowerment. Slide 9. SDG 6, Clean Water and Sanitation. BRSR Disclosure Pathways. SDG 6 aims to ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Within India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework, SDG 6 alignment is operationalized through a clear set of disclosure pathways spanning water stewardship, wastewater management, community wash initiatives, and workplace facilities, as reflected in the matrix-based approach. Principle 6. Water Management, Environment, shows direct alignment through disclosures under Section C, P6Q6Q9. These capture water withdrawal, consumption, recycling, discharge quality, and stress area operations, enabling assessment of operational water efficiency and risk management. Principle 6. Wastewater treatment further strengthens direct alignment, Section C, P6Q9Q10, by reporting on effluent treatment, zero liquid discharge initiatives, and compliance with discharge standards, critical for protecting aquatic ecosystems and public health. Principle 8. WASH programs, inclusive growth, demonstrates direct alignment, Section C, P8Q1Q5, through CSR investments in community water access, sanitation infrastructure, hygiene awareness, and safe drinking water projects. These disclosures highlight contributions to underserved communities and systemic water access challenges. Principle 3. Workplace facilities, employee well-being, plays an enabling role, Section C, P3Q4Q6, ensuring adequate drinking water and sanitation facilities for employees and contract workers, thereby supporting health, dignity, and productivity. Collectively, the SDG 6 BRSR matrix integrates environmental performance, social investment, and employee welfare. By combining operational metrics with community outcomes, BRSR positions water and sanitation as a cross-cutting ESG priority, enabling transparent tracking of risks, impacts, and progress toward SDG 6 targets. Water stewardship performance indicators enable organizations to assess how effectively they manage water-related risks and contribute to sustainable water use. Key indicators include total water withdrawal by source and water consumption intensity per unit of production, which reflect operational efficiency and dependency on water resources. The percentage of water recycled and reused, along with zero liquid discharge (ZLD) implementation, demonstrates commitment to circular water management. Disclosures on operations in water-stressed areas and associated mitigation measures highlight risk responsiveness. Wastewater discharge quality parameters and regulatory compliance indicate environmental responsibility, while rainwater harvesting capacity shows proactive resource augmentation. Investments in water conservation technologies, rejuvenation of community water bodies, and the number of people benefiting from improved water access collectively capture both operational and community-level water impacts, supporting long-term water security. Slide 10. SDG 7, Affordable and Clean Energy, BRSR Energy Disclosures. SDG 7 aims to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Within India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework, SDG 7 is addressed through a structured set of energy-related disclosures that capture both operational performance and broader social outcomes, as illustrated in the matrix-based approach. Principle 6. Energy Management, Environment, shows direct alignment through disclosures under Section C, P6Q3 Q5. These include total energy consumption by source, renewable energy share, and energy intensity metrics. Together, they enable assessment of an organization's transition toward cleaner energy and improved energy efficiency. Principle 6. Energy efficiency further strengthens direct alignment, Section C, P6Q8Q9, by capturing energy-saving initiatives, process optimization, adoption of efficient technologies, and consumption reduction programs. These disclosures demonstrate how organizations decouple growth from energy use and emissions. Principle 8. Energy access and inclusive growth reflects indirect alignment, Section C, P8Q1Q5, through CSR initiatives that support decentralized renewable energy, rural electrification, clean cooking solutions, and access to energy for underserved communities, extending SDG 7 benefits beyond core operations. Section A, Climate Action and Strategy plays an enabling role, Section AQ5, by disclosing climate-related risks, transition strategies, and commitments to clean energy adoption. This establishes governance and strategic intent for long-term energy transition. The current energy landscape reflects a decisive shift toward cleaner and more sustainable systems, anchored in measurable progress and long-term commitments. A renewable energy share of around 25% in total energy consumption indicates growing adoption of solar, wind, and other non-fossil sources. This transition is driven by cost competitiveness, energy security considerations, and climate commitments. Looking ahead, the 2030 target of 50% renewable energy represents a strategic milestone, requiring accelerated investment in clean energy capacity, grid integration, storage solutions, and demand-side efficiency. Complementing this trajectory is a net zero ambition by 2050, which signals alignment with global climate goals and necessitates deep decarbonization across operations, value chains, and energy use. Energy performance metrics provide the analytical foundation for tracking this transition. Key indicators include total energy consumption by source, renewable energy share, energy intensity per unit of production, and year-on-year efficiency improvements. Metrics on energy savings from efficiency projects, adoption of clean technologies, and scope-wise energy-related emissions further strengthen performance assessment and accountability. Sector-specific energy considerations shape how these metrics are applied. Energy-intensive sectors such as manufacturing, cement, and steel focus on process efficiency, electrification, and alternative fuels. Service and IT sectors prioritize renewable electricity procurement and data center efficiency, while transport-intensive sectors emphasize fuel switching and electrification. Together, these approaches ensure that energy transition pathways are credible, measurable, and aligned with long-term sustainability goals. Slide 11, SDG 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth, Multidimensional BRSR Mapping. SDG 8 promotes sustained, inclusive economic growth, productive employment, and decent work for all. India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework aligns SDG 8 through a multidimensional matrix that integrates workforce practices, labor rights, value creation, and inclusive growth initiatives. Principle 3. Employee well-being shows direct alignment, Section C, P3Q1Q25, via disclosures on fair wages, safe working conditions, social security, skill development, and career progression. These indicators directly strengthen job quality and workforce productivity. Principle 5. Human rights and labor rights also demonstrates direct alignment, Section C, P5Q1Q7, by addressing freedom of association, elimination of forced and child labor, non-discrimination, and grievance redressal across operations and supply chains, core tenets of decent work. Section A, Economic value generated and distributed reflects direct alignment, Section AQ1, by reporting how economic value is created and shared among employees, governments, capital providers, and communities, linking enterprise performance to inclusive economic outcomes. Principle 8. Inclusive growth and job creation provides indirect alignment, Section C, P8Q1Q5, through CSR and business initiatives that support entrepreneurship, MSME development, skilling, and local employment generation. Together, the SDG 8 BRSR matrix demonstrates how decent work outcomes are delivered through integrated governance, labor standards, and value chain inclusion, positioning economic growth as both responsible and inclusive. Decent work is a multidimensional concept that goes beyond job creation to encompass quality, dignity, and sustainability of employment. Employment generation focuses on fair compensation as a core pillar of decent work. It includes payment of living wages, gender pay equity, timely remuneration, and comprehensive benefits such as social security, health insurance, and performance-linked incentives. Transparent wage structures reduce inequality and enhance worker motivation. Working conditions address occupational health and safety, reasonable working hours, freedom of association, and access to grievance redressal mechanisms. Safe, respectful, and rights-based workplaces are fundamental to protecting workers' physical and psychological well-being. Career development ensures long-term employability through training investments, skill enhancement, internal mobility, succession planning, and leadership development. These opportunities enable workers to progress professionally and adapt to evolving labor market demands. Economic contribution reflects how enterprises generate and distribute value through wages paid, taxes contributed, procurement from local suppliers, and dividends, linking business success with broader economic development. Informal sector and gig economy considerations are increasingly critical. Many workers operate outside formal employment structures, lacking social security and protections. Progressive organizations extend decent work principles to contract, gig, and supply chain workers by improving wage practices, safety standards, access to benefits, and pathways to formalization, ensuring accountability across the value chain. Slide 12, SDG 9, Industry, Innovation and Infrastructure, BRSR Innovation Disclosures. SDG 9 focuses on building resilient infrastructure, promoting inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and fostering innovation. Within India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework, SDG 9 alignment is articulated through a matrix-based approach that integrates innovation investments, infrastructure development, technology adoption, and resource efficiency. Principle 2. Innovation and product responsibility demonstrates direct alignment through disclosures under Section C, P2 Q6 Q9. These capture R&D investments, sustainable product innovation, digital solutions, and process improvements that enhance productivity while reducing environmental and social externalities. Principle 8. Infrastructure development and inclusive growth also shows direct alignment, Section C, P8 Q1 Q5. Disclosures on investments in physical infrastructure, such as roads, logistics, energy access, and digital connectivity, highlight contributions to resilient infrastructure and inclusive economic development. Section A, Technology Adoption provides indirect alignment, Section AQ7, by reporting on digital transformation initiatives, automation, data systems, and adoption of advanced technologies. These disclosures reflect organizational readiness to modernize operations and improve efficiency. Principle 6. Resource efficiency and environment plays an enabling role, Section C, P6Q6Q15. Energy efficiency, waste reduction, circular economy practices, and cleaner production technologies support sustainable industrialization and long-term infrastructure resilience. Innovation and R&D indicators reflect an organization's capacity to drive sustainable industrial growth and long-term competitiveness. Key metrics include R&D expenditure as a percentage of revenue, number of patents filed and granted, and the share of products or services incorporating sustainability-driven innovations. Indicators such as digital technology adoption rates, investments in automation and Industry 4.0, and revenue generated from recently launched products demonstrate how innovation translates into operational efficiency and market relevance. Partnerships with research institutions, startups, and open innovation programs further signal an ecosystem approach to innovation. Infrastructure impact metrics capture an organization's contribution to resilient and inclusive development. These include investments in community infrastructure, kilometers of roads or bridges constructed or improved, and expansion of digital connectivity projects. Support for industrial parks and clusters enhances regional economic development, employment generation, and supply chain efficiency. Together, innovation and infrastructure metrics provide a comprehensive view of how enterprises support SDG 9 by combining technological advancement with tangible development outcomes. Slide 13, SDG 10, Reduced Inequalities, BRSR Equity Framework. SDG 10 seeks to reduce inequalities within and among countries by promoting social, economic, and political inclusion. Within India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework, SDG 10 alignment is articulated through a structured equity matrix that integrates diversity, non-discrimination, inclusive growth, and stakeholder participation. Principle 3. Diversity and inclusion demonstrates direct alignment through disclosures under Section C, P3Q1Q9. These include representation of women, SC, ST, persons with disabilities, and other marginalized groups across workforce levels, ensuring visibility and accountability in inclusion practices. Principle 5. Non-discrimination and human rights also shows direct alignment, Section C, P5Q1Q7. Policies addressing discrimination, equal opportunity, grievance redressal, and remediation mechanisms strengthen protection of vulnerable groups and promote equitable treatment across operations and value chains. Principle 8. Inclusive growth and equitable development reflects direct alignment, Section C, P8Q1Q5, through CSR and business initiatives that support livelihood creation, MSME development, affirmative procurement, and economic empowerment of marginalized communities. Principle 4. Stakeholder voice and engagement plays an enabling role, Section C, P4Q1Q3, ensuring affected stakeholders, including disadvantaged groups, are identified, consulted, and able to influence decisions impacting their interests. Overall, by integrating workforce diversity, human rights safeguards, inclusive growth initiatives, and participatory governance, BRSR enables organizations to demonstrate credible and measurable contributions toward reducing inequalities. Diversity and inclusion encompass equitable representation, fair treatment, and meaningful participation across all segments of society. Gender equality focuses on balanced workforce representation, equal pay, career progression, and robust anti-harassment mechanisms. LGBTQ+ inclusion is advanced through non-discrimination policies, inclusive benefits, safe workplaces, and awareness programs. Caste inclusion in the Indian context emphasizes representation of SC, ST, OBC communities, affirmative action, and anti-discrimination measures. Disability inclusion promotes employment of persons with disabilities through accessible infrastructure, assistive technologies, and inclusive recruitment. Economic inclusion extends opportunities to marginalized groups via supplier diversity, local procurement, inclusive finance, and entrepreneurship support. These dimensions are tracked through quantitative diversity metrics such as workforce composition by gender, caste, disability, age, wage ratios, pay equity, and supplier diversity spend. Complementing these are qualitative inclusion indicators, including policy existence, sensitization training participation, grievance mechanisms, inclusive leadership practices, and employee resource groups. Slide 14, SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, BRSR Urban Impact. SDG 11 aims to make cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Under India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework, urban sustainability is addressed through a matrix that integrates community development, environmental management, stakeholder engagement, and operational footprint, linking corporate actions with city-level outcomes. SDG 11 BRSR Alignment Matrix, Illustrative, Principle 8, Community Development and Inclusive Growth, Direct, Section C, P8Q1Q5, CSR initiatives supporting affordable housing, urban services, slum upgrading, disaster resilience, and community infrastructure directly contribute to inclusive and resilient cities. Principle 6, Environmental Footprint, Indirect, Section C, P6Q6Q15, Disclosures on energy, water, waste, emissions, and biodiversity mitigate urban environmental pressures and improve livability. Principle 4, Stakeholder Engagement, Indirect, Section C, P4Q1Q3, Engagement with local authorities and communities ensures urban projects respond to local needs and risks. Section A, Operational Footprint, Enabling, Section AQ8Q10, Location of facilities, land use, and logistics inform cumulative urban impacts and planning coherence. Thematic Urban Impact Areas. Green buildings. BRSR aligned disclosures highlight energy efficient design, green certifications, low carbon materials, water efficiency, and indoor environmental quality. These measures reduce urban emissions and resource intensity while enhancing occupant well-being. Sustainable mobility. Organizations report initiatives on EV adoption, charging infrastructure, public transport support, fleet electrification, and last-mile logistics optimization, reducing congestion and air pollution in cities. Waste management. Circular practices, segregation, recycling, composting, and safe disposal address urban waste challenges. Metrics on waste diversion and hazardous waste handling support cleaner, healthier urban environments. Public spaces, investments in parks, community amenities, heritage conservation, and inclusive public infrastructure improve social cohesion, safety, and quality of life, particularly for vulnerable populations. Overall, the SDG 11 BRSR framework positions cities as shared value ecosystems. By aligning community investment, environmental performance, and participatory governance, BRSR enables transparent tracking of corporate contributions to sustainable urban development. Slide 15, SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production, BRSR Circularity Pathways. SDG 12 seeks to decouple economic growth from resource use by embedding circular economy principles across product life cycles and value chains. India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework operationalizes SDG 12 through a clear circularity pathway, captured in a matrix that links product design, resource efficiency, waste management, and consumer engagement to measurable disclosures. Matrix-based alignment, illustrative, Principle 2, Product Lifecycle Responsibility, Direct, Section C, P2Q1Q9, disclosures cover sustainable design, eco-labeling, recycled content, product safety, and lifecycle assessments. These requirements anchor responsibility at the design stage, ensuring materials, durability, and end-of-life considerations are embedded from inception. Principle 6. Waste Management, Direct, Section C, P6Q10Q12, Metrics on waste generation, segregation, recycling rates, hazardous waste handling, and zero waste or circular initiatives demonstrate operationalization of circular production and compliance with environmental safeguards. Principle 6. Resource Efficiency, Direct, Section C, P6Q6Q9, disclosures on material consumption intensity, water and energy efficiency, and process optimization track progress in reducing resource intensity per unit of output. Principle 9. Consumer Engagement, Indirect, Section C, P9Q1Q5, transparent product information, responsible marketing, grievance mechanisms, and guidance on responsible use empower consumers to make sustainable choices and extend product lifespans. Circularity pathways in practice. Sustainable design, eco-design, modularity, material substitution, and recycled inputs reduce upstream impacts and enable reuse and recyclability. Efficient production. Cleaner technologies, lean processes, and efficiency gains minimize waste and emissions while improving productivity. Sustainable distribution. Low-impact packaging, logistics optimization, and local sourcing reduce transport emissions and material use. Responsible use, clear labeling, repairability, service-based models, and consumer education encourage longer use phases and lower consumption. End-of-life recovery, extended producer responsibility, EPR, take-back schemes, recycling, and safe disposal close material loops and recover value. Thus, the SDG 12 BRSR matrix reframes responsible consumption and production as a system-wide transformation, from design to disposal, supported by standardized metrics, governance, and transparency. This enables comparability, reduces greenwashing risk, and demonstrates credible progress toward circular economy outcomes aligned with SDG 12. Slide 16, SDG 13, Climate Action, BRSR Climate Disclosure Architecture. SDG 13 calls for urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework provides a structured climate disclosure architecture that integrates governance, emissions management, risk assessment, and transition planning, enabling organizations to demonstrate credible climate action. Principle 6. Environment, GHG emissions, Direct, Section C, P6Q1Q5, disclosures on Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, energy use, emissions intensity, and reduction initiatives form the quantitative backbone of climate reporting. Section A, Climate Risk and Strategy, Direct, Section AQ5, Organizations disclose climate-related risks, opportunities, governance oversight, and integration of climate considerations into business strategy and capital allocation. Principle 6. Renewable Energy and Efficiency, Direct, Section C, P6Q3Q9, Metrics on Renewable Energy Share, Energy Efficiency Improvements, and Decarbonization Initiatives support transition pathways. Principle 2. Climate Resilience and Adaptation, Indirect, Section C, P2Q1Q7, CSR and community programs addressing climate resilience, disaster preparedness, and adaptation strengthen societal capacity to manage climate impacts. Development of low-carbon products, services, and solutions enables customer emissions reductions, avoided emissions. Explanation of the emissions trend graph. The accompanying graph illustrates a declining trajectory of Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions over time, reflecting the impact of energy efficiency measures, renewable energy adoption, and process optimization. The downward trend indicates year-on-year emissions reductions, while the separation between Scope 1, direct emissions, and Scope 2, purchased electricity emissions, highlights differentiated mitigation strategies. Scope 2 reductions are often steeper due to cleaner grid electricity and renewable procurement, whereas Scope 1 reductions typically require operational changes, fuel switching, or technology upgrades. Such trend analysis strengthens credibility by demonstrating progress rather than static disclosures. Strategic significance. Together, the matrix and emissions trend analysis position SDG 13 within BRSR as a governance-led, data-driven framework. By linking emissions metrics with risk management, transition strategy, and resilience initiatives, BRSR enables organizations to move from carbon accounting toward climate-integrated decision-making aligned with global climate goals. Slide 17, SDG 14, Life Below Water, BRSR Marine Impact Pathways. SDG 14 focuses on conserving and sustainably using oceans, seas, and marine resources. Although often perceived as sector-specific, SDG 14 has growing relevance for Indian corporates due to coastal operations, maritime trade, fisheries-linked supply chains, plastics use, and wastewater discharge. India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework enables structured disclosure of marine impacts through environment, product responsibility, and stakeholder engagement principles. SDG 14 BRSR Alignment Matrix, Illustrative, Principle 6, Environmental Stewardship, Water and Effluents, Direct, Section C, P6Q6Q12, Disclosures on Wastewater Treatment, Effluent Quality, Zero Liquid Discharge Initiatives, and Compliance with Marine Discharge Norms directly mitigate marine pollution and coastal ecosystem degradation. Principle 6. Waste and Plastics Management, Direct, Section C, P6Q10Q15, Metrics on Plastic Use, Waste Reduction, Recycling, and Hazardous Waste Handling address marine litter and microplastic risks. Principle 6. Biodiversity, Indirect, Section C, P6Q13Q15, Coastal and marine biodiversity conservation efforts protect critical ocean habitats and species. Principle 8. Community and coastal livelihoods, Indirect, Section C, P8Q1Q5, CSR initiatives supporting coastal resilience, mangrove restoration, and fisher community livelihoods contribute to marine ecosystem protection and socio-economic stability. SDG 14 Relevance for Indian corporates. For ports, shipping, oil and gas, power, and infrastructure, marine impacts arise from dredging, ballast water, spills, and coastal construction. Manufacturing and FMCG companies influence marine health through plastic packaging, chemical discharges, and waste management practices. IT and services sectors face indirect exposure via water use, e-waste, and supply chains, while financial institutions increasingly assess marine and biodiversity risks in lending and investment portfolios. India's extensive coastline and blue economy ambitions heighten regulatory and reputational expectations. Through BRSR, corporates are encouraged to move beyond compliance toward preventive, ecosystem-based approaches, integrating pollution prevention, circular materials, and community stewardship. Collectively, the SDG 14 BRSR Marine Impact Pathway positions ocean health as a shared responsibility, linking operational controls, product choices, and stakeholder partnerships to long-term coastal resilience and sustainable development. Slide 18, SDG 15, Life on Land, BRSR Biodiversity Framework. SDG 15 focuses on protecting, restoring, and promoting the sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, managing forests, combating desertification, and halting biodiversity loss. India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework translates these ambitions into a structured biodiversity framework that links corporate governance, operational controls, and community stewardship through a matrix-based disclosure approach. SDG 15 BRSR Alignment Matrix, Illustrative, Principle 6, Environmental Stewardship, Direct, Section C, P6Q6Q15, Disclosures cover land use, biodiversity impacts, habitat disturbance, water-soil interactions, pollution control, and restoration initiatives. These metrics form the core of biodiversity risk identification and mitigation across operations and supply chains. Principle 2. Product Lifecycle Responsibility, Direct, Section C, P2Q1Q6, Sustainable Sourcing, Deforestation-free inputs, certified raw materials, and eco-design reduce upstream pressures on forests and terrestrial ecosystems. Principle 8. Inclusive Growth and Community Development, Direct, Section C, P8Q1Q5, CSR initiatives supporting afforestation, agroforestry, landscape restoration, and community conservation deliver on-the-ground biodiversity outcomes while strengthening rural livelihoods. Principle 6. Land Management, Indirect, Section C, P6Q1Q2, Responsible land use, soil conservation, and prevention of land degradation protect terrestrial ecosystem health. Section A, Operational Footprint, Enabling, Section AQ8Q10, Location of facilities in or near ecologically sensitive areas provides context for cumulative biodiversity impacts and planning controls. Biodiversity Management Pathways. BRSR encourages biodiversity assessment through baseline studies, identification of sensitive habitats, and risk screening for operations and suppliers. Habitat protection measures include no-go commitments, buffer zones, wildlife corridors, and avoidance of protected areas. Sustainable sourcing emphasizes traceability, certification, and responsible procurement to prevent deforestation and land degradation. Ecosystem restoration, such as native species plantation, soil regeneration, and watershed restoration, supports net positive outcomes where impacts are unavoidable. Community partnerships integrate indigenous knowledge and local stewardship, ensuring long-term conservation success. Collectively, the SDG 15 BRSR Biodiversity Framework positions nature as a material risk and opportunity. By combining standardized disclosures with science-informed management and stakeholder collaboration, BRSR enables companies to demonstrate credible contributions to halting biodiversity loss and restoring terrestrial ecosystems. Slide 19, SDG 16, Peace, Justice and Strong Institutions, BRSR Governance Architecture. SDG 16 emphasizes accountable institutions, ethical governance, rule of law, and transparent decision-making. India's Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting (BRSR) framework provides a comprehensive governance architecture through a matrix-based approach that links corporate conduct, compliance systems, and stakeholder trust to SDG 16 outcomes. SDG 16 BRSR Alignment Matrix. Principle 1. Ethics, Transparency and Accountability, Direct, Section C, P1Q1Q5, Disclosures on Codes of Conduct, Anti-corruption policies, whistleblower mechanisms, and ethical oversight directly strengthen institutional integrity and accountability. Section B. Management and Process Disclosures, Enabling, Section BQ1Q9, Governance Structures, Board Oversight, Risk Management, Compliance Systems, and Grievance Redressal Mechanisms create the institutional backbone for SDG 16 delivery. Principle 5. Human Rights, Direct, Section C, P5Q1Q7, Mechanisms to prevent human rights abuses, ensure access to remedy, and protect vulnerable groups, support justice, fairness, and rule of law across operations and value chains. Principle 7. Policy Advocacy, Direct, Section C, P7Q1Q5, Transparent disclosure of policy positions, industry engagement, and advocacy practices ensures responsible participation in public policy without undue influence. Governance foundations, ethics, accountability, and justice. Anti-corruption is central to strong institutions and sustainable business conduct. Robust policies, regular training, due diligence, whistleblower protection, and zero-tolerance enforcement mechanisms help prevent bribery, fraud, and conflicts of interest. These measures reinforce ethical decision-making and protect organizational integrity. Transparency ensures trust through clear and accurate disclosures on financial performance, ownership structures, governance practices, and ESG impacts. Transparent reporting enables stakeholders to assess risks, performance, and accountability, reducing information asymmetry and strengthening market confidence. Fair practices promote ethical competition, responsible marketing, and consumer protection. By adhering to fair trade principles and respecting customer rights, organizations contribute to inclusive markets and long-term value creation. Strong governance is reflected in independent and diverse boards, effective ESG oversight, risk management systems, and clear accountability structures. Governance frameworks align strategic objectives with ethical standards and stakeholder interests. Access to justice is ensured through effective grievance redressal mechanisms, remediation processes, protection against retaliation, and inclusive stakeholder access to complaint systems. These mechanisms uphold rights and enable early resolution of disputes. Supporting these pillars are governance and ethics indicators, such as board independence metrics, frequency of ethics committee meetings, anti-corruption training completion rates, whistleblower complaints resolved, and disclosures on code of conduct breaches. The human rights due diligence framework aligns with international standards, including the UN Guiding Principles, and involves identifying, assessing, preventing, and mitigating human rights risks across operations and value chains. Transparent reporting on grievances, remediation outcomes, and performance ensures accountability and continuous improvement. Slide 20, SDG 17, Partnerships for the Goals, BRSR Collaboration Framework. The SDG 17 BRSR Collaboration Framework Matrix provides a structured lens to understand how partnerships are embedded across different components of India's BRSR disclosures, moving collaboration from intent to measurable action. Each element of the matrix reflects a distinct pathway through which partnerships contribute to sustainable development outcomes. Principle 4. Stakeholder Engagement, Direct Alignment, emphasizes structured identification and prioritization of stakeholders, including communities, employees, suppliers, regulators, and civil society. Disclosures under this principle capture engagement mechanisms, consultation processes, and grievance redressal systems, highlighting partnerships as a foundation for inclusive decision-making and social legitimacy. Principle 8. Partnership Models, Direct Alignment, focuses on formal and informal collaborations with governments, NGOs, industry peers, and development agencies. Here, the matrix underscores co-creation of solutions, pooled resources, and shared accountability, particularly in addressing systemic ESG challenges such as climate action, social inclusion, and ethical value chains. Principle 2. Value chain collaboration, indirect alignment, extends the partnership concept to suppliers and distributors. It captures supplier development programs, MSME inclusion, capacity building, and responsible sourcing initiatives, demonstrating how collaboration strengthens resilience and sustainability beyond the company's direct operations. Section A, Memberships, Enabling Alignment, reflects participation in industry associations and global platforms. While not project-specific, these memberships enable knowledge exchange, standard setting, and policy alignment, creating an ecosystem that supports collective progress on SDG 17. Ways of building effective partnerships. 1. Public-private partnerships, PPPs. Corporates collaborate with central, state governments for infrastructure, climate action, skilling, health, and urban sustainability, aligning commercial efficiency with public good. 2. Go and civil society partnerships. These enable last-mile delivery, social inclusion, human rights due diligence, and community resilience, particularly in CSR and just transition initiatives. 3. Industry and peer alliances. Sectoral platforms facilitate shared standards, pooled resources, and collective action on systemic risks such as climate, biodiversity, and supply chain integrity. 4. Academic and research collaboration. Partnerships with universities and think tanks support innovation, data quality, impact measurement, and evidence-based policy advocacy. 5. Multilateral and development finance engagement. Engagement with UN agencies, MDBs, and impact investors helps mobilize blended finance, scale solutions, and align with global best practices. In essence, the SDG 17 BRSR collaboration framework reframes partnerships as a governance and performance imperative, enhancing credibility, accelerating SDG outcomes, and strengthening India Inc.'s contribution to sustainable development. Here we mark the end of this session and close the discussion. We summarized this topic as the BRSR SDG mapping framework moves Indian corporates beyond compliance towards strategic, outcome-oriented sustainability reporting, positioning them as credible contributors to inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development. Next week we take SDG BRSR Framework Mapping Matrix, Part 2, under the current topic that shows how this matrix deals with challenges of planning, and the BRSR SDG Mapping Framework moves Indian corporates beyond compliance towards strategic, outcome-oriented sustainability reporting, positioning them as credible contributors to inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development. It serves as a strategic tool for corporate reporters, investors, and sustainability professionals seeking to align their ESG disclosure practices with global development objectives. We encourage you to remain actively engaged with our platform, participate in upcoming sessions, and share these insights with peers who are equally committed to advancing sustainable development and responsible enterprise. We wish you continued success, enduring inspiration, and steadfast resilience as you contribute to building a sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future.